Hi, Dad.
Hi, Sam.
So Ria, my wife and I, we were sitting over the last few days really thinking about this opportunity of what to ask you and just really thought about some key moments from your life. And we were thinking about what can we ask that maybe people haven't heard? And we thought of a few things.
Okay.
We thought, first I think we realized that your story really is this hero's journey, this going through all these trials and not knowing how it's going to go. And, at some point you really got to this point where you had succeeded and you had this message to share with people that now I think it's so succinct. It's like you have these clear messages that you've learned, these clear lessons. And what Ria pointed out too was that when you look at the moments from your life, there were these clear choice points that you had. And we wanted to dig into those choices a little bit, like how you were really able to make them.
Okay.
And, our intention was to really bring it to moments so that people here can just feel your humanity and just the challenge of the journey too that all of us experience. So we'll start with this picture. What do you know about this picture?
That's me a long time ago.
And if we were to transport ourselves there, what do you think we would find in?
I don't know that you would have found anything terribly surprising. I like to think I was just like a regular little kid. I play football with my friends and baseball with my friends, and I don't think I was a good student. I don't think I was anything super, but I don't know if I was like 6 or whatever there, but I think it was. I felt I lived in a nice neighborhood with nice kids, and it was fun to play.
And one thing I think we see through your journey is you have this persistence. Like you're really willing to go for these dreams despite what anyone's telling you. You've all these rejections and people telling you things. And I'm curious, was there an early moment in life where you were really encouraged to have that persistence, or you were taught to really believe in yourself?
Yeah, I really don't think I was. My dad and mom really, all the time, they just, sounds simple. They said, we just want you to be happy. They did not push me hard. They were, my dad was a very smart guy and, and like I said, people said, played math games with me and stuff like that. But I don't think I saw anything like that. He was a hard worker, certainly. But, he ran a liquor store and he'd be there, 6 days a week and worked long hours. But that's because he grew up in the Great Depression and got to see a lot of people who were once very wealthy, really get bankrupt and stuff.
Maybe there's something in that we just want you to be happy that's actually able to help you really go after some of these dreams.
I think wanting to be happy, I think that's good. I like that. I think I hope I've told you that.
Definitely. Okay. Where are we here?
That's Cornell and Olin Hall. It's a chemical engineering building at Cornell. And that's me in front of it with a tie on, which I don't usually have.
We also pointed out it's very long, the tie.
I'm terrible with ties. I actually dislike ties tremendously, and I'm not very good at tying them. I wonder if it's even, yeah.
Do you have one moment from college that you would, if you were to relive one moment from college, what do you think it would be?
Yeah, boy, that's an interesting question, and I have not thought about it. I don't know if it was a moment. It was all of a sudden, I did a terrible start well, maybe I'll do this. It's more of a realization, which is going to sound terrible, and I wouldn't give anybody this advice. But, like we talked about, I had ADHD, and I couldn't pay attention. So my first 3 terms at Cornell, I just did terrible. For the B- average when I was and I would keep falling asleep in class. And finally, like after 3 terms, I thought to myself, if I'm going to fall asleep in class, I know a lot more comfortable place to fall asleep, which was my bed. And so the way it was at Cornell, and I don't know if still you had lectures and you had recitations. And the lectures were like 300 people, and that's where I would fall asleep. The recitations I went to, and if you're an engineer, the important thing is to be able to solve problems. So anyhow, I cut every lecture. I cut 140 classes. My grade points went up enormously. The last 5 terms at Cornell, I had better than an A average because they give A pluses. But I think that realization that I was just so incapable of learning in a class, and that had a big effect on me, you know, just trying to do problem sets, and I kept doing problem sets, and because I did problem sets, I'd get good at them.
Both of those are powerful lessons. I mean, in the beginning, we want you to be happy. So many people are chasing, you know, different measures of success, and you're taught, we just want you to be happy. And then people are sort of expected to go to class, and you're realizing, wait, this doesn't work for me. So I think both of those are.
Yeah. By the way, what I just said, hopefully they will not play that back for people at Cornell.
Don't go to class. Okay, where are we here?
That looks like my parents' house. So
Graduate school.
MIT, yeah. Boy, I'm starting to look older. But yeah, I still have the tie on. It might be the same tie.
But Rhea pointed out it's shorter, so you had a little better style.
Yeah, maybe. I got better at tying them.
Well, the point this made us think about was you being offered all these jobs at oil companies. And we thought, wow, this idea that you're offered these jobs at an oil company and you decide, you know, I'd rather scoop ice cream, you know, at Steve's than work at these companies. We just wanted to understand, you know, where did you get that idea?
Of ice cream?
Well, just, yeah, that you would just,
well, I guess
that you would be happy with a very different kind of life.
So I think it's a 2-part question. One is I just couldn't see myself working at the oil companies, including the fact that they were all dressed up every day. You know, I don't like that. But I just didn't like, you know, I just didn't want to spend my life doing something that I felt wasn't that important. So that was the first thing. So if I wasn't going to do that, what was I going to do? And, you know, I did, as I mentioned, keep searching for jobs. But I thought, well, if I was going to take a year off, and I wasn't thinking of taking forever off, you know, I really liked ice cream. So I could see, you know, I remember actually we'd drive from MIT to go to Cabot's at the time in Newton, and there were other places. I don't know if Steve's I don't think was there then, but I just felt like if I was going to do one thing, you know, maybe I would do something like that.
It seems like having that, you know, a backup plan of some sort, seemed like that allowed you to dream, allowed you to be okay with some measure of failure too.
Well, I think that's right. I just felt like I could make some money. I could doing the ice cream, and I hoped I wouldn't get too heavy. But you know, I just felt like it would give me some time to think about what I might really want to do.
Okay.
Well, that's me. That's Children's Hospital, and that's Judah Folkman, who I mentioned before, and that's me. Probably looking at a chick. I talked about the chick or eggs with the blood vessels, and that's that under the microscope.
And one story that's really stuck out to me is about you scraping cartilage. How long were you scraping cartilage for?
A couple years, because that was really the first source to prove that there were blood vessel inhibitors. We were looking at cartilage, and again, you couldn't get very much. So, first time I got a lot of it was from a slaughterhouse on Clay Street in Cambridge. But then I wanted to get, and you'd have to get rid of the meat. That was the first part of the purification. But then later I made this arrangement with these meat packing places in South Boston, and I got a lot of cartilage and a lot of bones. But I'd use what's called a periosteal elevator to scrape it off.
What were you thinking about, you know, as you're scraping this cartilage off?
Well,
every day for years.
Yeah, I was thinking about that I wanted to solve this problem. You know, I mean, I'm sure I daydream doing that too, because
are there moments of doubt? Are there moments of like?
Well, it's not the most interesting thing to do to scrape cartilage, but I guess I felt like, you know, at one point we had people helping me, and so you'd talk while you're scraping cartilage. In fact, one of my roommates, her father tried to make a cartilage scraping machine. It didn't really work, but still, it was worth trying. So, you know, you keep thinking about different things. But hopefully, I was to hope that be able to use that cartilage to isolate things that might stop the blood vessels. So, I mean, that was the main thing.
But you never had a moment of like, why am I doing this after?
I'm sure I did,
Yeah.
but you know, it was a long time ago.
And here?
Yeah, well, that's 1988, but that's your mother at the time, and that's me.
What was this day like for you?
It was a great day. I mean, it was, you know, really nice. We had the wedding at the Hyatt Regency in Cambridge, and that was a long time ago too. But it was nice. A lot of people, you know, came from all over, and and also we had a great chocolate cake.
I've heard of this cake. Now, so in so many of your talks, you really talk about, you know, mom being this bedrock of your life, of your career, and I've also gotten to see, you know, every birthday of hers, you just take off completely and spend the day with her. I'm curious when when did you really understand that, you know, this relationship was such a foundational part of your life that you wanted it to have that place?
Well, yeah, I guess I think about that every day. You know, I feel very lucky. You know, and also Laura, we didn't talk. You know, she's got not only, I mean, she's got a PhD in neuroscience, and so she understands, you know, sort of the life I have too, in addition to you all. You know, so that you know, so it's great to be able to share that with her and get her advice and stuff like that.
Okay. Who's that?
Is that Michael or you, or who's that?
I don't think it's me.
It might be probably Michael. Yeah, that's his
Okay.
older brother and our first baby.
How did becoming a father change your outlook on life, you know, your career?
Yeah, well, it really did change it some. I mean, first, it's such a miracle to see the baby come, but still, this was 1989, and I had just moved from, they'd gotten rid of the nutrition department at MIT, and I was in the chemical engineering department, and they wanted me to teach thermodynamics of all things, which I didn't know. I mean, I thought it was like a very hard thing to teach. And you know, we'd started like maybe the first company, you know, that I'd helped start, and still had a big lab, and everybody's asking me, you know, how do you juggle all these, you know, like the kinds of questions John asked. You know, you have all these people in the lab, you're doing these companies, and I thought to myself, geez, all I'm doing is trying to understand thermodynamics so I can teach it to the kids. But Michael, you know, he'd be, you know, next to me, and I'd be reading the book, and he'd be crawling over me and trying to eat the book. I think I even have a picture of him eating the physical chemistry book. But you know, but it was great. I mean, it was a wonderful thing to see. Other than him wanting to eat telephone cords and things like that, it was wonderful.
Wow. So is the lesson there you can juggle a lot of things if you have one really hard thing that distracts you from everything else?
No, I'm not sure what the lesson is. I was lucky that, you know, your mother was very helpful, but to me it was a wonderful, you know, I valued tremendously the relationship I had with my father and mother, and it was great for me to be able to, you know, try to be in that position myself.
We'll do one more of these. It's a few years ahead.
That's Sam.
Where did you get the idea to? So you used to take a trip with us, each one of us,
Yeah.
once a year. Where did you get that idea?
Yeah. So, well, partly because I was so busy. You know, I worked a lot, and we would often take family trips. But one of the things I thought about is, like, I got, you know, being a professor, you get asked to go to sometimes interesting places, and of course, when you're little, I think the places are, you know, so I'd often think, well, since I'm so busy, I thought I'd take people, let me one-on-one, you know, to different places. And it started out with kind of some simple things like going to New York City, and I think taking your sister Susan, and then taking Michael to you know, we were all into baseball, taking Michael to the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. But I thought those were really good because what I watched is when we had a family gathering, well, not to mention the fighting between the three children, but also it's like you don't necessarily get to, people won't tell you what they're on their mind unless they're with you one-on-one. And they won't, and if you ask them, like if I asked you, well, what are you thinking about? You know, it's not necessarily going to happen. But you spend 2 days with somebody, you know, even when they're young, and, you know, stuff will come up. And I felt like that was really good. And then I'd realized that everybody liked those trips. And to this day, actually, all three of them, we still do those trips. So that's a nice thing.
Where do we think this is?
I think that's the Lemelson Award. That was, so that is an inventor award. That was 1998. And that's Laura, my wife. And so they, you know, MIT and Jerome Lemelson started this award for, I guess, the best inventor. And I was the fourth recipient. He'd actually given it to the two people, Boyer and Cohn, that, you know, did the finding about, you know, genetic engineering, and then they gave it to the guy that developed the mouse for Engel, I forget his name, but Engel, anyhow, the guy who did the computer mouse, and Doug Engel something, but Engelbart, right, yeah, so but then I got it, I was the fourth one to get it, so that was a real thrill. I mean, I was even dressed up for it.
Bow tie, from tie to bow tie, it's good. So
yeah.
I think this picture makes me think, in your story, there's so much rejection, there's so much, you know, oh, this wasn't working, this wasn't working, this wasn't working, and then it seems like at some point, it all just really starts to work, you know, and so much so that you're able to really share these lessons with people. I'm just curious, for you, where was this point in your life where it went from like, wow, people are telling me to get a new job, to people are, you know, people won't give me like it just, nothing's working, to wow, this is.
Yeah, I don't think it was one point in time, you know, I think it was a continuum. I mean, and still today, it's like, it doesn't necessarily change. People still give, you know, turn grants down, you run into other problems. I mean, so it doesn't ever fully stop, but there's a continuum, I think, of change. You know, I don't get rejected as much now as I used to, so.
What's this?
Well, that was my 70th birthday, and I think about 700 people came, and that's your sister dancing with me, and I can see that I need more hair. That's you, I think, and Michael, and there's Mom. And other people from the lab. I'm having trouble leaning back far enough.
That's okay. And what did it feel like to be celebrated at that point?
Well, it was nice, but it was also exhausting, you know, because you have to, yeah. But it was, you know, looking back, it was extremely special. But it, you know, have that many people come, and you want to talk to everybody, you want everybody to be happy. I mean, I can tell you, I spent with your mother hours, you know, because people made a seating chart, and I just thought, well, this isn't going to work, or that. I spent hours working on things like that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, but you want everybody to feel good.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to bring it to the modern day. I think this was taken this year, right?
Though they have that. I've been there a few times, but I think you're right. I think that is this year.
So I think just as we bring it to this, you know, this moment, more of a modern time, curious how do you most want to be remembered?
I hope as I haven't really thought about it too much, but I hope as a nice person who helped people and maybe did some important things.
I thought you were going to say the nice person part. So I also wanted to ask you your definition. How do you define a good, nice person?
Well, I think somebody that cares about other people, you know, and tries to do what that puts other people at least in as good a spot. I'm probably saying this poorly, but that treats people and wants that person to be treated at least as well as they are themselves.
Great. Well, yeah, I love this arc from your parents with this message of we just want you to be happy to this whole journey of, you know, to me, I think that's that's such a foundational point, right? Because if you have this idea that we just want you to be happy, it's okay if you fail. It's okay if you know, whatever happens, because you're taught that that's the goal. You know, it's not all these other things. So it's nice to see this full circle from we just want you to be happy to just being a good person, and with all these incredible accomplishments in the middle.
Well, thank you. You know, going back to your question, I was just thought about, you know, one of the things my father always would talk about was the golden rule, you know, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And I think that that is such a simple statement, but I've often thought about that as a guide in some ways.